Welcome to Free Game. This is your host D Lewis. I think I'm just gonna play a couple of songs towards the end of this live stream, but first I was gonna talk about a couple of different things, a couple of different topics. Um, First, I wanted to let me see here. Yeah, I got pretty much expected. Um, hmm. so I wanted to talk about first local sports. Talk about my Pistons. Right now it's 2-2. Anybody they don't know, big fan of the Pistons. That's my local team. Also with the Lions as well. Hopefully they do something on this offseason. We going against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Um, to be honest, this shouldn't be such a tight type of game, but we made too many mistakes on the turnovers. I think their Achilles heel is actually James Harden. Neutralize him, and he should be good for the rest of the game. Some of those losses, especially that first loss we had over in Cleveland, that could have been an easy win. I feel like we gave that game up, and then the momentum kind of was shifting towards that last game. So we gonna see. We gonna see. I did also notice too with Lakers getting swept. You know, I would be very doubt. I would doubt the fact if LeBron James retired with him being swept in that last game. Do I think he needs to retire and just focus on other things? Man, at this point, you know, he showed to do some things that a 41-year-old should not be doing. I'll just tell you that. If he does retire, I would have hoped that he went out a little bit more gracefully, like a tour, something that Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade. I think this is a year where he might actually want to look around and see where he actually want to hang it up for his final year in the NBA. I think I want to be surprised if he actually went to Cleveland. I clearly don't think Miami is an option, but or if he just hang it up and stay in LA. I mean, he's already settled in, but I don't see him having 2 more years in the NBA. But I also don't see him saying, "Well, this is it, and I'm leaving after a sweep." Now, like I said, we don't know. Last 2 games pretty emotional just because of the referees, but you know that's how it is when it comes down to the NBA, especially with the playoffs, is that everybody has their own objective, their own agenda, and it's kind of hard to figure out like, are they making the fair calls? Like I've seen a couple of games, and I know the entire team of OKC love to flop. I mean, regardless of what you want to say, you know, your ties to Oklahoma, they love to flop. So but you know, it's ironically because the person who kind of started that trend, um, and I don't think LeBron started the trend. I think he took a hold of the trend. It was already started, and because of his name, it blew up because everybody had eyes on LeBron. Like other people was doing that against him. I've seen old tape. I've been around. Like I'm 37, so I know when he first came out, like he would play straight up hard defense, play through it, not trying to sell a foul, but things didn't change. And personally, I think others who took advantage and got away with it is why the NBA is the way it is now. You got James Harden. A lot of people love to flop, plain and simple. Um, I felt like, to be honest, this the NBA is a reflection of like the generation too. It's like, I mean, the NBA is soft. I mean, everybody's flopping, everybody's trying to sell a foul. Then the worst part is when you actually do get contact, the refs don't know to call it or not to call it or let it go. That's just it. That's just the reaction and the reality of it. Um, but That's the state where we're at pretty much. Speaking about the Timberwolves and the Spurs, very, very shocked. I'm not so like the call, I don't think it was should have been a technical foul, but you know what? This is the NBA. He sold it. Is what it is. Wemby got a little aggressive after the elbow to the neck for Nas Reed, and they benefited because he got ejected. Um, this is playoff basketball. This is why when you are young and you are in these moments, you might not recognize and be aware of the moment because you're appreciating kind of the journey, the mistakes that's made. Um, I think that's something that he will self correct, be more disciplined later on in life. Um, Ant was doing what Ant had to do. Um, but I don't think that uh Wemby getting ejected, like if he never got ejected, if that was not a thing, I'm sorry. But Spurs would have had a dub. Saying this is no ifs, ands, or buts. Like the Spurs would have got it done. Um, let me see what else I can say. Oh, yeah, I can talk about New York Knicks. Um, New York Knicks, man, they are something. Um, you know, they haven't blown out teams recently. Clicking on offense, playing through Cat. He's been more so of a playmaker at the top of the key, setting guys up. I don't know how that's gonna fare against the Detroit Pistons. Um, and I don't want to take nothing away from them. 76ers have been a good team, but I've seen two of their games, and I was just like, man, they kind of got it easy. I'm gonna just say that. Like the New York Knicks kind of got it easy, and the reason why I'm saying that is just because, like, the New York Knicks is a good offensive team, but 76ers is not a good defensive team, and they're small. So like you can get off and don't really got to worry about too much, especially when their guys is not delivering on offense either. So they got a weird dilemma that they need to do and fix on the off season. Um, Same thing with the Raptors. I think the Raptors are moving in the right direction. They kind of need to move off of Brandon Ingram. Um, but it's crazy how one guy, by making a change, like he can change the whole perspective of your team. Um, let me see. Let me see. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna see. I want to see what's gonna happen with and the one thing that's different this year is a lot of NBA players have been going out to the other games. Now it makes sense for Draymond Green because he's from Michigan, also with a Booker from Michigan. Like individuals who got some ties. Same thing with Amon, his brother's playing. Like I'm not tripping on that because the connections are there. But when I do see other players and they might be going there and they might have no connections or they might just know somebody on the team, I'm still kind of wondering, do are they trying to sell themselves to get back onto a different team, or they just love being at a live event and it's the playoffs? It's one of those things where like people just want to like live life and be back outside because yes, we have went through a pandemic and switching topics, trying to speak about the pandemic and all the different things that we went through. Um, let me see. So lately, it's been issues with these cruise lines. People going to cruise. Um, it's like multiple different viruses that's been uh going around. Neurovirus, hantavirus. Um, Also some creepy, creepy stuff that was going on with Disney when it involves kids, and it's like, I don't know what's going on, man. It's like every single day the news does not let up, and it's always something that is like it's crazy. And I personally feel like, especially going through the pandemic, or if you just not the pandemic, just not the pandemic itself. Like leading up to the pandemic, it was every day there was something new in the news. And sometimes people got tired of it because it was like you can't get a break. And that's the reality when you got a person like Donald Trump in office, where this dude is just feeding you negative shit all the time in the news. To be honest, he trauma dumping on the whole entire world. Ain't even like he trauma dumping on like the United States. Nah, the whole world is getting trauma dumped on. 'Cause every single day is something new. It's something new. Like when I was a kid, I'm pretty sure I can't remember how many times where you can watch the news and that story would last for like a couple weeks, probably a month. And now it's not like it's a story that something adds on to it and it builds on top of something and people do independent investigations, see what's real, see what's not. But like, they'll speak on certain things and before you know it, it's gone. Nobody even talking about it no more. Like they was speaking on the Epstein files and then everybody was talking about it. People was going through deep diving. And then after a while, it slowly went away. And I'm talking about the major news. I'm not talking about independents. I'm not talking about people that's on YouTube that's making content because you do have a lot of people out there who are seeking and are spreading the truth. But for major outlets, and this is why people don't have faith in a lot of these news outlets because they can't stick on a serious topic because there is too many topics. And it's like, pick your poison, but you can't just forget about certain things and just brush it underneath the underneath the table. So, you know, the reality of it is, my passion is doing writing. And what I do plan on doing is just what I did, I think last year and the year before was just every so often, I might occasionally write about current events. I might get off and write about the current events, things that I see that need to be changed. Obviously, if you moving with a purpose, um, then at least you know you gonna have good intentions so you can help others. It don't matter if it's just people can figure out the mistakes they're making, self correction, better the community, change the culture a little bit, make sure people is doing what they need to be doing. But I mean, the stuff that they put on the news on a daily, it's like sometimes you got to give yourself a mental break, and that's just the reality of it. And at some point, um, I haven't yet. So I got two albums I want to talk about. I'm gonna drop Transformation and Deception. Deception is about exposing a lot of stuff, which some stuff I've already kind of talked about in Chastised with Love and also Beloved. Um, Deception just goes more in depth with deep, like the deep dive, to be honest. But like I said, all of it is completed, all of it is written, all of it is pretty much formatted, it's down. And then Transformation is just about, man, like the feeling of completion and feeling of when you have a relationship with God and you not stressed, the waking up and not being having anxiety or having stress is a feeling that a lot of people don't get the chance to experience because this world is so hyper fixated on trying to tear people down, stress people out, and you know you can't determine what's up, what's down. People not moving with logic; they moving off emotion. People can't become prisoners of the moment because they let somebody else like move them off their goalposts. I've seen so many people make actions based off emotion and did not get the results that they needed. Every time you move off emotion, it's a predicted outcome. And no matter what it is, it don't matter if it's anger, it don't even matter if it's love. A lot of times, emotion will lead you to a predicted outcome. And, you know, you not moving with logic is a little bit more secure. So it is what it is, you know? It is what it is. Um, Let me see. I see they had a roast to Kevin Hart. Didn't see it, but I did see some parts of Cat Williams getting on there. They were talking about their beef, their situation, mainly because of finances, money. Who says money ain't the root of all evil? Tear two brothers against each other. Um, but that's how it is. Um, those to be honest, is weird. When I see a roast, like it's a difference when somebody say, "I want to be humbled. I want to have a humbled experience. I want to humble myself." But roast is different. It is different, and to be honest, it's it's for some people, but it ain't for everybody. Personally, I don't know what you get out of tearing somebody down who has accomplished so much. It's like the opposite of we used to have award ceremonies for people who were great, and you will give them their flowers because the things that they accomplished. And this is the complete opposite. Um and you know, I don't think that it's a for those people who self idolize and all that other stuff, but this is a little bit different. This is different. Um, like for real. It's so many different ways where somebody, if you wanted to feel humbled, like be in service to others, go to a church in need, go to a pediatric hospital, help those, volunteer. Like I watched this movie called The Human Experience. Also been a part of a lot of humble situations, like just going to a small church, seeing people in the community who are in need. Like we've always been in had people who was in need, and it's like it's so many different things that can truly humble you. But this whole roast, um, I don't know. It's to be honest, and some of the like I'm into jokes. Like my favorite comedians is like the Dave Chappelle's, the Paul Mooney's. It's a lot of young cats coming up that's doing like fire. Like I love laughter, man. Don't get it twisted. I love to laugh, but like some of these jokes ain't even hitting. They're not hitting at all. Um, and I mean that's just a product of what they put out there. To be honest, um, is truly a product of what they put out there. You know what's so crazy, man? Like before I switch topics, um, I want to talk about, you know, like we live in this era of distraction and also just deception, right? Talk about it, wrote about it. I'm gonna talk about it. Um, but man, like we don't do anything to fix the problems that are currently plaguing people. I feel like I don't know what it is, why we don't, but we can identify the problems that plague people. I've seen people go on platforms and talk about these problems that plague people. Um, Wasting your brain cells on nonsense. People that's hooked on all the most negative things in this world. There's the bad, the was it the I forgot what it's called, the Bad Girls Club. Like the culture of just tearing down your fellow brothers, your fellow sisters, and you know that's the thing. Like you can, and it's just the way it is, and it's just the way it's supposed to be, right? And I know you can't pour in and wait and put too much energy towards something that's negative and ain't going nowhere. It's not moving. It's not moving with intention. But you know, you see things on the internet and you like, man, the craziest stuff that will distract you, that will get you hipped on your dopamine, will be all elevated, put you in a state of distraction. It's like it's the same action of what sugar does to the body, and it keeps you like insulated, so you can never hit the goals you need to hit within that in them 24 hours. The simple goals, if you just need to get sleep, some people stay up, be on their phone playing the game, or they be on YouTube watching something that ain't pouring into you, was taken out of you instead of pouring into you. Um, and it's crazy. Sometimes you look, and I get it. People be like, "Look, you gotta protect." What they say, protect your algorithm, because sometimes you don't even want things to enter your algorithm because some stuff you don't want to see. But the reality of it is, like, you don't need to be on on the internet like 24/7. I grew up, people, kids outside communication. You had something to say, you gonna say it directly to whoever you need to say it to. But now we got this medium, and what I'm talking about is a medium is like, cameras, phones, you know, and I'm like, it's a different type of energy when if you had problems and you had to discuss your problems and saying it to somebody's face might be a lot different than if you built up, put a battery in your back because you on the internet, you in front of a camera, you felt confident somebody didn't, you know, inspired you to crash out, and you not moving with logic, but because you put it on the internet, guess what? You have to move on it because it's on the internet. And the reason why I say that is because I've seen too many. Like my bro, one thing about my brother, right? He always tell me, man, if you going this is when I used to rap, right? If you're gonna do something, speak on things you know and you seen. Well, I've seen too many people crash out because they will speak on things, um, and like they will move off emotion. They will become prisoners of the moment. They would like they would do something on the internet that you can't come back from. And that's a prisoner of the moment. Like you might say something personal, it could be against a relationship, it could be against friendship, um, something that happened at work, and you say something, and because you move enough emotion and you never sit on it, you never let stuff sink in, give it true thought, moving, erratically, and you don't realize you're gonna have to live with the consequences of whatever you make. That's the problem. That's the plague of free will that we all have. The freedom of choices. And a lot of times, with those freedom of choices and people and the things that they choose to make, you know, it either will make you or it will break you. Like either them choices is gonna put you in a better situation or it's gonna tear you down. And the biggest crab in the bucket is yourself. A lot of times you prevent success from happening. And that's just the truth. So that's a part of them generational curses that people is plagued to, that they realize they stand in the way of their own success. Can't get past, can't get move forward. Literally just stuck. So, but getting off that topic, I'm gonna play a couple of songs, talk about them. I ain't gonna play all of them, but I got too many to go about. But I'm gonna start off with superhero, supervillains.
Super la da da da. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. La da 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 da. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Superhero, supervillain. Share perspective in the eyes of your children. If they only knew what you had to do to have a pot to piss in, to raise you to be incredible was the only mission. Only corruption brings division, even when the world envisions you as the villain. All I need is you to listen. Try not to be a heathen. The fire breathing destruction from what you're touching is what you're leaving. No convincing of being a hero is out of season. Turn your back on me without a reason, we call it treason. My moral compass lost something, and now I'm grieving. I broke down deception and gave you transformation, something to believe in. The plan is the mind, fertile land to plant a seed, and straight from the mental. A pencil is my best utensil when I'm eating. An internal beat in my head keeps me feasting. If I'm your brother's keeper, then there's nothing leaking. I desire to inspire with every word that I'm speaking. Who knew words can defeat it? A demon. A simple prayer can turn an atheist into a deacon. A light in the sky, it must be a beacon. Symbolizing hope, it must be freedom. Superhero or supervillain, it depends on how you see him. Through peace and equality, how can we reach them? But it's power for people who want to defeat him. The fear of losing power is the reason they bleed him. Why wait for after he's gone to recognize that you need him? If you ever feel alone, put on this song and you'll see him.
All right, so that was called superhero, supervillains. Basically, the perspective is on the eyes of the beholder, pretty much. Like it can change based on, um, you know, who it is. Like a lot of times, people don't realize that um, a superhero to one can be a villain to others, and that's why when people actually go through and they look at the Book of Matthews and they go and they're in the 20s, chapter 20s, and they talking about the Pharisees, you realize, um, you know, Jesus is like a superhero to the masses and to those who don't have a voice. But then you also realize that he was a villain for those who was in power around them times, and that was the high priest, that was the Pharisees, that was the ones who was making money off the religion and the Old Testament. So, you know, people who try to profit off of the word of God, which is, you know, ironically why they say money is the root of all evil. But literally, high priest was trying to profit off of the word, off the Old Testament. And that's why people say, the common saying is you can't buy your way into heaven. No matter what you can, well, no matter what they try to tell you, you can't do it. Which, you know, it's crazy. Recently, I think it was, I don't know, it was in Florida, and they released was it a golden, it was a golden statue of Donald Trump, and I'm just like, man, don't this look like a golden calf? And like people don't see it. People want to call it something different. I'm like, nah, bro, it's literally the exact same thing. But there's so many people who got this false discernment, and they speak on things, and it's like people will anoint themselves online and say who they are. I've seen it all the time. All these people who got millions of followers, they about to crack a million, they got 100 or 900 thousand. And people will anoint themselves to say like that their word is coming straight from God. And I always say you gotta trust the message sometimes and not the messenger. Because if it is, you know you gonna know off rip if it's coming. Somebody don't have to tell you off rip that, you know, this word is coming from God. It reminds me of when I see Mormon who will take advantage of women because and younger women because they are manipulating them through saying that their actions is based on the word of God. And that's why the biggest sin that has happened in the United States too is when they had slavery, and most people will characteristic characterize that as saying, well, you know, you're doing a good deed by you know, looking up to your master. And it's like, bro, cattle slavery has never happened throughout history, only in the United States. And somehow they would try to flip that. They tried to use the Bible to keep people in line because they knew that people wasn't reading and didn't have clarity and clear understanding. So they separate you from the story and then they read and they bring you back in, but then they twist certain things so you can feel like you are not just disenfranchised, but you are like beneath another group of people. And the crazy part is, you know, you see it all the time. I see it all the time nowadays where like instead of saying you're gonna pray for somebody, people will cast judgment instead of casting prayers. And they think that they're justified by doing it. And I'm like, homie, who you moving for is not who you think you're moving for if you gotta be moving in this type of way. Plain and simple. And I'm speaking from a perspective of just somebody who realized that the life we live, you know, it's a full journey. It's things in this life that's gonna slow you down. It's things that's gonna make you move fast because you feel like you got a battery in your back. And that's just the way it is. Now I spent about 10 years, over 10, yeah, about 10 years being a respiratory therapist. That's my profession. And I see it all pretty much. I'm like the person like I see from the start of birth, going to C sections, or being there and at at the deathbed and somebody is like, when somebody is extremely sick, for one, it's a humbling feeling, but it's a feeling that people get close to God even if they felt like they never was close to God. Like I've seen people who had the craziest backgrounds. Story, you know, more stories to tell of just one person, just crazy background stories. But they can't escape the same thing that we all pretty much go through. And that's being born and death. You can't escape both. And it's like, people people need to realize that don't get fixated on the destination, man. Appreciate the journey. Live your life. Live your life. Um that's pretty much what I got to say. Just so many people get fixated. And I'm like, well, we govern ourselves based on the New Testament for what Jesus have done. We don't we what they say, we don't move based on your faith is governed by works. Like if you the way you live and you move and you carry those testaments, it's going to strengthen your faith. Now your faith is governed by Jesus Christ who came and took that burden off of you. But people who glorify the Old Testament will tell you different.
So
This is called
a
Final Form.
relationship is worth more
Same album though.
than gold. To live inside of your creation, the Garden of Eden, where nothing gets old. For those who choose to live outside your scope, I see changes in that story being told. Too fast to take, don't get lost on that road. Confidence can blind you when feeling bold. Idealizing ideas from imposters, profiting off souls. Being so glorifying the promises of coexistence with ancestors can feel magnifying. But the world is cold and too many teaching to be defiant. The one and only that can give us hope for a future that's promising. One thing that I'm learning as the world keeps turning, the sun will rise and fill the skies with the signs of our Savior returning. The first time I felt home, I rocked with a sermon that paralyzed my viewpoints on the money I'm earning. Stuck in place, where do you place all the wasted time that's burning? Life too short, so try to live proper instead of chasing Gucci, LV, Prada. See most scars, the C-section appointments met with a doctor who covered up scars that are just friendly reminders. You could have saved someone, but it's met with a kind of met with a sort of met with a later. I see people be lionized, the whole time will tear you down if your name was Mufasa. Look at how these imposters did to the Messiah. All others can get to stepping like there are too many fathers. Ducking intersections where fake can be fatal. Chasing a dollar, fear of a loss. The best else is life lesson. Learn from a poor man. You can't get from a humble yourself by helping others. The payout could be massive. Don't let a moment hold you captive. Retract what you thought was attractive. It was just a distraction. Clear your mind like skincare to be proactive. When the creator is your day one, you gotta stay active. You've done so much for me that I can't stay passive. Who only knew Nip was an Ethiopian Jew that taught through music the things he mastered. Know yourself and you can't move backwards. Trying to prove a point, but it ain't no factor. Factories, 12-hour shifts are where dreams get captured when life gets sad. Losing people to laughter is a peace of mind. That is the only thing that we can revise ourselves. There's so many things that break you down that you condone. Can't find God through a phone. Tell your loved ones you love them before they are gone. It was common practice that your son's name kept so many strong. Their names changed when those dropped the atomic bomb. Went from demons to aliens, but fear of your son's name made him run along. God brings calm to bad weather when you're cold to keep you warm. His opposition is synonymous with a storm. No need to be alarmed if you've been warned. The creator of creation is nothing greater than your final form.
All right, so that was called Final Form. Basically like a story of, for like personal relationship with God and understanding like anybody can have a relationship. It's take sacrifice to get there. Ironically, they're talking about you know, a- aliens and demons, which in reality, from what I've seen, is if especially from the book of Genesis and the Nephilim, is that I was watching this video, and this one pastor had a really good now you pretty much, if you are a Christian, you should already know about the Nephilim. They were the descendants before the flood. There was the descendants of angels and angels who made it with human with women. They lusted after women. Um that was the 200 that fell down to earth um because of Satan. You know, and they created offspring, and this offspring was called the Nephilim. Well, um, the Nephilim, because they were not supposed to be here in the first place, when they perished, they had no host of a body to go to. Their soul was still pretty much roaming, and that's what they would call a demon, or people would say, demons. It's because they don't call like angels like or like an alien an angel from what I've heard recently, right? This story is still out like um but his concept was just saying that the difference is like, especially if you go and you read the Bible and you know about when they were talking about Legion, And when Jesus had to cast out those uh, demons into a pig, it was somebody was being possessed, and he casted out those demons, and they wanted to go into a pig. They went into the ocean, and well, those demons was the descendants of Nephilims, like of these giants, and like you said, they possess, but they cannot. They don't have a body of their own. So that's the way the story goes. His name was Fred Price Jr. Check out his videos. He got really good content. Really, really good content. I think Miles Monroe also did a good job. Rest in peace. Um, I think Stephen Darby as well. Rest in peace. It's a couple of different pastors where you can get some, meat and potatoes of how this world is really kind of moving, and from a Christian perspective, because a lot of people have different perspectives. And I always say, look, man, I'm not here to judge. At the end of the day, people gonna find out when they find out, right? If people don't believe in judgment day, you find out when you find out. So that's why they say faith is blind. You don't stress yourself out because somebody chooses not to walk in good faith or walk in faith. The free will is theirs for them to make the decision. But they got a lot of times you gotta realize you gotta own up to the decisions that you make and realize about self correction. So this one called The Collective.
This is dedicated to the collective who share the same perspective. I detect Christ consciousness, that's something for the detectives. The same ones who neglect us, see movement in our unit, and found ways to separate us, segregate us with new ways to hate us. Just a 21-year-old out of Illinois with plans for opposition to respect us. Dreams of unification through action and demonstrate. Was Fred Hampton, the birthplace of the Panthers, died before ideas got realized. Just 21 years before he vanished. When the youth meet their roots before bearing fruit is not sustainable for the planet. It's a better way to try to imitate what God have done single-handedly now. Don't judge. Crucify me with fake love. The creator of the simulator. We are fractions of what you're made of. Is that why in my mind I find divine energy? So I know the stories aren't made up. The entitled give titles like saying where we're made of stardust. Translation made from God because God resides in us. Translation, we are made from love. Faith is trust. Correlation, God is love. From an atom to the stars above, his presence is apparent, watching over us. The first concept of a parent. Now that you woke, Jesus Christ conscience got you coherent. The bond of soul ties, being in lock with the Holy Spirit. We all know the assignment. Locked in exercising, free will for the wheel alignment. Full circle from fighting to climb the highest peak to finding peace when trying to change the climate. We the collective make change. Not a billionaire who flies private with a fear of speaking on human rights is why they remain silent. From corporations who choose violence by dividing the nation. It's power in unification. It's no longer hidden in conversation. The transfer of energy. If you're seeking confirmation, lose petals for most who sit on a pedestal, thirsting for condensation. The beautification of we the rose. Not one soul can create a duplication. Pick up brothers and sisters like loose petals so they know their placement. Don't get lost with the imitation. Chasing someone else's dreams will only leave you with your imagination. Stargazing like you studied the constellations. The battle within, just know you're not alone. So no need for ducking the confrontation. The collective.
So that's called The Collective. So basically, it's more so like it's the name of the song pretty much says it all, right? It's like for one, you are stronger together than divided. Again, the devil loves to divide and conquer, and you have better outcomes when you are connected than being divided. Um, and the collective is for people with the same mindset to realize that you know, a Christian, Jesus Christ conscience type of mindset is somebody who is realizing that the different qualities of being meekness. Um, like again, we know we're near perfect. We make mistakes, we fall, we bump our head. We also realize that self correction is what's called grace. It's opportunities to repent for things that we have done, and also realizing that when it comes down to salvation, salvation is only through one, and having a relationship is important. But people need to also realize too that you need to understand and have a relationship with with Jesus. You have to know him to have a relationship with him. If you don't know who this person was, if you so focused and fixated on his death and you didn't realize what he was in his life, then how would you ever know him? How would you not know the things that he stood on and why he stood on the things he stood on? It makes sense for somebody to go in depth and in details and realize, and so you can try to build those characters in within yourself. Like we are all fractions of God. We are made in His image. So if that's the case, then you should be trying to make sure your actions is going to follow that as well. Again, we're not perfect human beings, but people got to realize the struggle of going through something. You don't have to stand alone. That's the whole purpose of the collective is to realize it's a group of people that will help you get through it. Plain and simple. And kind of remind me of when I wrote Breaking Addictions. Same thing, same concept. Um, Breaking Addictions. It's on my other album, which I'm gonna play that song just because I'm talking on it. But it's the same concept. Have you got to realize that you're not in it by yourself. A lot of people will feel like they're going through something and they don't realize you got people who are either they went through it already and that burden don't have to fall on you by itself. This is called Breaking Addictions. This is on Beloved. The first two songs was first three songs was on Chastised with Love.
This is how you break addiction. When you hear God's voice, it's an intervention. Sit in silence, let him talk and listen. He will talk through you when you feel conflicted. I pray for them just to know I'm in it. Some roll through our life with the windows tinted shade. The pain, things change when you realize life is rented. When you live for God, you know who's your opposition. Let discipline be your competition. Breaking free should be your only mission. Keep on pushing, breaking character like you're done with auditions. Lose yourself when you run from tradition. If time is lost in a bottle or prescription, find salvation before you greet morticians. Choose meditation before taking medication. You can find the right motivation if you let God point you in the right direction. Cleanliness is next to godliness, so you know it's occupation. When needing to be clean, talk to the head of sanitation. I pray that temptation doesn't move on you like immigration. Let your testimony be a tool. People used to dig themselves out of a situation. Sober soul, Lord knows you're contemplating. Life will change with a little bit of time remaining. Just don't waste it entertaining. Sad and free yourself from the ones who don't recognize your greatness. They all fall victim to alcohol, pills, and social media. yeah. They keep them locked in the matrix, my timing is uncommon. How I make sense, I could care less. If you send me hatred for years, you bottles fear, I'm here so you can break it. Unmasked from fear of insecurity, so you can face it. The body is home, so keep it sacred. Don't let addiction dictate your replacement. I'm far from perfect. Let my discipline be examples of what you are imitating.
Yeah, that's called Breaking Addictions from Beloved. Um, man, I think I think that's important. Uh, I had to make that because for one, again, like it's kind of speaking on the fact of being humble, right? People you see, you have people that you see um work. People can be within your family, people in the other family, can be friends, people you went to school with, and people fall victim to addictions. To be honest, it can be anybody. Anybody at all at any time can be a victim to addiction. And it's about things you gotta realize to break those addictions, about what you put in your time in and you put all your resources into. And so many people get hit with the common ones that somebody's addicted to drugs or they're addicted to alcohol, something like that. And addictions can be anything. It's just anything that you can that consumes you and you literally put so much time into it that you lose yourself. And you don't know how to pull yourself back into figuring out who you truly are as an individual. Like that's why I say when I tell people, like sometimes it pays to sit in silence, detox from social media, detox from the world, and you go to sleep with the Bible playing, but then you wake up, you sit in silence, and you reflect, and you try to figure out and map out your day before you try to get it started, and just see what comes to you. Because sometimes, most of the time, people will go on their phone and they don't realize they start reflecting all the different things that's on their phone. They start reflecting on the point of views of people that they come across. It's no wonder, like when somebody watch a movie and they watch a karate movie, then they feel emboldened and they want to like do martial arts. So they might watch a fight. They might watch a Mike Tyson fight, and now they feel confident and they want to get into the gym and they feel like they can throw some hands and they can take some punches. Like that's just the mindset, but that's the immortal mindset that most men have when, especially when they're young. I always tell people, don't get misled by mortal men because when you're young, you're willing to crash out and lose so much of your future because you're not making a logical decision. You're making a decision based on somebody putting a battery in your back, having you have this immortal mindset. So, like, the things that I always keep, telling people, it's just like if you choose to fast, you start off slow. You say, each day when you wake up, I'm like, all right, wake up. I'm gonna try to do an hour of not even going by my phone, no social media. If it's an emergency, of course, but if it's no social media, and then the next day you say I'm gonna do 2 hours, then the next day you're gonna do 3 hours, the next day you're gonna do 4 hours, the next day you're gonna do 5 hours, and you're gonna work your way up because the whole goal is to build a foundation. When I tell my students that I get, I always tell them the first thing you need to do is you got 12 hours on a shift to master three things. Don't overwhelm yourself. Build you a foundation. Build you something solid to walk on, and try to master three things that you can master when you walk into this hospital. And it's the same thing, same principle that you can apply to anything in your life. If you want to learn how to do the stock market, if you want to learn how to code, if you want to learn about, if it's technology, if you want to have a better discernment and learn the Bible, pour into it. You got to spend the time to do it. You got to, first of all, when you come to the Bible, you got to have the right questions, like questions for yourself of what you are trying to seek when you are reaching out and you're trying to get the Bible and understand the Bible. That's the biggest thing. Sometimes we'll willfully read something like it's a regular book. And I'm like, no, sometimes it's okay to have questions. Some of your questions can get answered while you are actually reading and discovering the words and the concept, the stories in the Bible, the parables. People realize, Jesus spoke in parables, but it's for people with discernment to understand those parables. So, I always say, um, there's definitely things that you can do. And for people who are going through addictions, to realize they are not alone in it. You know, they are not alone in the fight. God has always been there with them. And another thing is go through when you realize when you go through the Bible, there's broken people in the Bible all scattered through all the chapters. It's so many people that God has worked on and fixed because they were broken themselves. It wasn't somebody who felt like they had all the answers. It was people who literally was on their knuckles. You think about Moses having to flee because he murdered somebody. People had issues with drinking, all kinds of things, all the play, all the sins. That's why they say it's nothing new under the sun. Do you understand that? Nothing new under the sun. Literally the same plagues that was plaguing mankind back in the day is still the same ones that plague us today. And do people find ways to say, can they adjust? Can you make a change? Can you pivot? Can you do something different? You know? That's the thing. The choice is yours to make. I think I got I'm gonna play two more songs and I'm gonna call it. Um, this is called. This is called "Do Introverts Get Lonely." It was perfect timing because I put this right behind breaking addictions.
Peace of mind when I sit in silence. Your emotions violent. What brings royalties will leave you in violence battles with yourself because you can't enact kindness. This world is simple math, it only reacts to plus or minus. Kratos battling addictions defeat Rocky when you're Adonis. How many spit out words when they should have swallowed a promise? Too many pilgrims lied to Pocahontas. When I speak the truth, they seem to move around it. My God, you keep me grounded. My circle tight, it's just what you like more than a five to keep me rounded. I need respect and loyalty to keep me surrounded. I gave out so many life rafts for those who were drowning. An introvert, my presence felt when I'm out of town to reign supreme. The impact felt when you wear the crown. I feel alone in a sea of people, but I don't hear a sound. Witness enlightenment when invited to the crown of crowns. Through God's law to pick them up, you gotta hold them down. Listen, do introverts get lonely? The answer is no. If God is you, homie. Wasted conversation with those who judge before they get to know me. Trade royalties for loyalty. I'm good if I don't see myself with the majority. When all is right, I'm left to heal the sick is my priority. A real G fixes problems of others who knew the answer would come from a minority. Green, prosperous lands come from his glory. A changed man is when God showed you mercy. See, time is precious and can escape us when we live in a hurry. A midlife crisis is a reset, so that doesn't make you feel buried. For all of my introverts who feel like this world is scary, vision unclear, it's looking blurry. How many miles I walked in my life but never felt worried because through God my burdens weren't hard to carry. Oh, oh. Get rich in isolation.
So it was called Breaking Addictions first. Then it was called Do Introverts Get Lonely? And then after that I had Get Rich in Isolation. And before Breaking Addiction was called a song called Backyard, which was actually pretty dope for a song that needed to be before Breaking Addictions. But the placement is everything, right? So after realizing that most people are going through something, that they are a burden in their life, the next thing I had to do was remind that individual that introverts, for one, people who don't know, like people who love to be by themselves, they feel like they thrive by themselves, or they feel like they're um they maximize whatever they was working on by themselves. Does the introverts get lonely? So when somebody think they're going through something by themselves, I always tell them that God is right there. And when you think God is not right there, He's right there. The biggest thing is you have to clear your mind to receive. You can't have your mind be so cloudy. And that's why I say, man, prayers are powerful. You need to pray for strength, pray for common sense, pray to clear your mind, get rid of some of those distractions, those burdens, so you can have clarity and you can have a real, true relationship. Because, you know, a lot of times people will be entertaining so many different things and they wonder why sometimes the burden is still upon them. And I'm like, man, it's just the way you living. You got all these different devices pouring into you when God is trying to pour into you, and you a cup already full. So you gotta detox a little bit. You gotta pour out. You know, you can't come with a cup already full and try to ask God to pour into you when you already full. That's why they say sometimes, your soul is a reflection of the world that you live in. That's what brings your characteristics, the way you move, the way you talk, the way your culture, who you are as an individual, and your spirit is something that wants to reflect the Holy Spirit. The spirit is something different. Sometimes people lose that. Your spirit start to reflect your soul, but it's based on what you choose to pour into your life, and that's just the reality. Um, some people don't realize you can turn it on or you can turn it off. It depends if you got the discipline to do that. And if you realize like when you have people and you work in a certain setting, you should know that you are a reflection of not just your parents, not just your spouse, your loved ones, not just your kids, but also your job, your work, the place you work at. So if you don't if you say you want to move a certain kind of way, then I always tell people you got to pour into yourself. You got to work for yourself because until then, you're gonna always be a reflection of the company that you work for. Plain and simple. I had this conversation a little bit earlier. I was talking about, you know, people talk about freedom and liberation and financial freedom and liberation, where most people is compromised because basically, you know, the company that they work for, that dollar is, it's hard to determine what you can and what you should be doing. Like, it's some people that is in situations like, for example, and I hate speaking on somebody, but that's why I'm not gonna put their name on. But it's a person that I know, he make YouTube videos, he do panels and everything. And guess what? The problem is that sometimes he speaks to others and he will debate others from a Christian perspective, but his lifestyle does not reflect that. He has a lustful lifestyle. He likes to engage with women, but he's a married man. And the reality of it is, on his panel, most of the times he have people who have true Christian backgrounds. Well, now you have the problem that I have is because of that, you create hurt people. People can be church hurt. And the reason why is because you have people trying to play both sides. They want to create a gray area to live in, and people thrive in chaos. Why they keep saying, um, a house divided cannot stand. That's what Jesus was trying to tell the Pharisees when he was casting out demons. He was talking about the devil. And the reason is for is because you won't it's no form of a gray area. You can't tippy toe yourself in, can't tippy toe yourself out. It's a difference when you are ignorant of it and you make mistakes. It's a difference when you know the mistakes you make, but then you choose to mislead others. And I feel like most of the time, these people on these platforms, they don't take that in consideration when they get on there. So, you know, some people will say certain things. People who are true Christians that be on those platforms, they might not realize that the person that they are doing business with is compromised. They truly compromised based on their opinion. Not just the fact that they truly compromise, it's the fact that, you know, you got to use your own personal discernment. If you follow somebody with bad discernment, they're going to lead you to the same dry well that they be drinking from because they can't promise you nothing. They can tempt you with worldly things to try to flatter you and, boast himself up. But that's the same worldly things that the devil tried to tempt Jesus when he was fasting for 40 days. You know, the devil will try to tempt you with the world, and a lot of times people will get compromised with it. They got a lustful nature. They want to entertain the world so much, and a lot of times people can fall victim to it until it eats away, and you got that gut that you know that your stomach feel like a bottomless pit. And it's called guilt, and it's the worst feeling when like somebody can be fixed when you do something wrong and you feel guilt because you know you did something wrong and you can try to fix the problem that you've created. Now, for those who can't feel no guilt, how you gonna ever have self correction if you feel like you've never done anything to correct? Like nothing, you did nothing wrong to correct. Those are the individuals that you can't fix because pride has blinded you and ego has blinded you. You can't make the right decisions. You can't fix certain things when you're blinded by pride. Plain and simple. Some people will sit. It's like when you see people who matter of fact when you see like a cold blooded creature, right? Amphibian, right? Most amphibian like a cold blooded creature, they will literally sit in the cold. They can sit in a boiling pot of water and will sit there until it's too late. Because they don't even know self correction of them trying to get out of that situation. You look at a frog that's in a boiling pot, he will sit there and will boil to death and not realizing he ain't regulating nothing. He's just sitting there thinking that he's comfortable within his sin. And that's the same principle that I see with so many people that they're comfortable within a sin. And they can mislead so many people. And it's like to what? To what? To what ends? Like to what's the goal? Like I always say, somebody misleading a group of people, or you can't you can't fix the fact of because this the reality of it too is you have followers and you have leaders. And if somebody followed you and they moved a certain kind of way, they took your word and they did something based off of your own words and your judgment off of what you said, and they did something that they can't come back from. That guilt still falls on the individual that put that seed in them in the first place. Now, a lot of people can't. I feel like a lot of people probably is cool with it, meaning they're not gonna trip because multiple reasons. I feel like you have some people who feel like there ain't nothing that they can do that's gonna change or persuade somebody to move different in the first place. They think words is just words, and words don't have consequences. But reality is, you know, they all have consequences. They all can lead somebody to do something that they don't need to be doing, don't need to be moving a certain kind of way. And before you know it, you know, it's too late. I'm gonna just play a couple of songs while I'm talking. But so that's the biggest problem that I always see. And I always tell people like sometimes the internet will will amplify. It's like a megaphone to the tool of the devil. If somebody chooses to use the internet and they pushing out lies, or they pushing out something to mislead, then what tool is that going to be used for? Now, I'm not saying that positive things can't come from it, but let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it 100. Most of the times, things are corrupted once men touch it. Saying from Tupac. Most things are corrupted once men touch it. So as much as you have the good intention, even when I see with AI companies or just new technology, if it's cars, and I always say you can put the right proper regulations. You know what needs to be done. If you want to say you want to do things to protect the people and you want to make a safer world for the next generation, it's so many positive things that you know for a fact can be implemented. But out of capitalism and out of trying to make money, you don't implement them. So that's why I always say sometimes you can be compromised by just entertaining money. It's not to say that you gotta live so frugal where you can't reap the benefits of making money or making a living. There was a quote where I think Jesus was trying to tell his disciples about um, Caesar, give back Caesar's what is Caesar's and God what is God's. And that's the thing that we see today. That people might living in a moment. They don't even recognize it. Like, and what that means is sometimes you can't find comfort out of living in a situation and thinking that money is gonna solve all your problems. Money ain't gonna solve all your problems. So, more true questions that people should be trying to ask. Figure it out. Like, it's crazy. I feel like that's a powerful quote, man. Not completely get it. The context is here. Like I always tell people, you know, when you go through and you start really deep diving in the Bible, right? What you should also do is look at the context. Uh, so like you got to look at the context of the whole settings, right? Like what was being taking place. We know the Romans was Roman, and when you people watch Gladiator, people watch Odyssey, Alexander, like all these movies that depict the Romans being who the Romans were. They conquered all these other nations. They was going around conquering different villages, and their downfall was the thing that plagued them was their currency. Endless wars endless wars, pretty much, and they couldn't pay the military. Overexpanded themselves, paying their military with fake money that had no worth, no value, and because of that, it collapsed. You can't look at the end of the day. The families of those military men, they had to make a living. So it's the same thing that plagues people. Um, and that's just overextended. And I always tell people, like, when you watch the gladiators, you gotta remember too that people who was enslaved and gladiators, the same ones that's in the Bible. So I want to tell people, go through and you go through and you look at the book of Jubilee. That's not in the Bible, but it's telling you about the rebellion of people who was rebelling against Romans around that time. A conquered people, man. So, I always tell people, ever go back to Genesis, learn about Jacob and Esau, these two nations at odds. It's that's why I always say, when you go and you try to read, make sure you have questions so you can have better intentions of what you're trying to get out of it when you read the Bible. Don't let somebody on the internet paint a picture for you, and you following them, and they following somebody who don't believe nothing at all in the Bible. That's the crazy part. I don't understand. It's like you got some people who literally. I'm like, that make no sense. But with that being said, I'm gonna check up out of here. Make sure you check out my music on Spotify. Make sure you check it out on Tidal, Apple Music, YouTube under D Loui. I'm gonna try to do this more often. Making some of these live streams, do some shorts. But that's all I got for y'all. Hopefully y'all move with attention, move with purpose. You know, peace.